I love the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy. They're not only some of the best superhero movies ever made, but they're some of my favorite movies of all time. They're epic, funny, exciting, full of memes, and cheesy as all hell, but that's part of what makes them so great. And I'm not blinded by nostalgia either. I faintly remember watching them when I was really little. I do remember being totally obsessed with Spider-Man, but I remembered absolutely nothing about the movies. About a year ago, I went and saw Spider-Man Far From Home, absolutely loved it, and got obsessed with Spider-Man all over again. It prompted me to finally buy a PS4 to play the new Spider-Man game, and after completing that and enjoying every second of it, I watched the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy for the first time in about a decade and had an awesome time with each of them. Yes, even the third one. I turned each of them on separate nights this past week to fall asleep to and ended up staying up until 4 AM watching them all the way through. They're so entertaining. But that's enough about the movies. I've been dying to play some more Spider-Man PS4, but I told myself I was going to save that for when I upgrade to a PS4 Pro and a 4K TV, so that'll be a little while. But for the time being, I decided to play some of the older ones, starting with the Spider-Man movie video game for the GameCube, PS2, and Xbox. I have to say, it's really hard to go from one of the best superhero video games ever created to this 18-year-old attempt at a Spider-Man movie tie-in game. I'm sure back in the day this was some groundbreaking stuff, but geez, it's aged very poorly. The game looks exactly as you'd expect a game that came out in the early 2000s to look. It's not particularly good or bad. The game's really dark though. The outdoor sections are fine, but once you're inside it's so hard to see thanks to both the lighting and the camera. The camera really sucks. You can move it left and right, but not up and down, and that really sucks when a lot of the game is built around going up and down. Pressing up puts the camera in lock-on mode, which is helpful for when the game makes you fight dudes in the air, and down recenters it, which is also quite handy. But don't even think about trying to move it while you're walking around, because that completely messes with the direction you're walking. If you decide to move the camera while you're walking forward, he continues to walk in the same direction, the previous forward, and when you try to adjust and move back on track, he starts to turn how he would in the previous position, and then he corrects himself. That doesn't sound like a lot, but it adds a major layer of clunk to the game, and it really sucks, especially in the indoor levels. Spidey loves to climb, so much so that whenever you walk up to a wall, he starts climbing it. This is made so much worse in the enemy waves. To see where you're going, you'll move the camera, but then we'll move the wrong way, end up on a wall, and you're just a sitting duck. The camera also suffers with the problems of the times, which are made even worse in tight spaces, but that's kind of to be expected from a licensed game in 2002. Gameplay-wise, the game is pretty okay though, and it teaches you everything you need to know in a very fun way. I'm usually not a fan of tutorials, but there's some narrator dude and he's actually pretty funny and makes it a lot of fun.
Do not try this at home, okay? Your house isn't nearly tall enough. Throw a punch with the B button, ooh, and kick with the X button, waha! If you want to throw some more goons around, knock on the door by facing it and pressing the punch button. I'm gonna grab a ham sandwich. Whenever you're done beating bad guys up, follow your compass and height meter. But I know you. No, you want to go fast. You want it now. Well, I'll tell you a secret. You follow me? Well, stop following me or I'll have you arrested. The yo-yo, ladies and gentlemen. Well, that was a pretty full day, huh? So look, if you need to go over this tutorial, or if you just plain missed me, which, who could blame you?
Anyways, you can jump, kick, punch, shoot webs, climb walls, and web zip, which can be used while climbing and walking and makes movement faster, but is far less effective than running would have been. You can also web swing and it's so bad. You press the right trigger and Spider-Man just starts swinging forward and doesn't stop. You have to press A to break the cycle. This really doesn't feel right and it's really hard to control. The game plays itself. You can hardly control how you swing. You can control the direction partially and how high or low he swings, which sounds fine but really doesn't work well. You see, when you're moving forward and want to swing across a gap, you would think you'd have to hold forward to swing forward, but no. Holding forward makes you go higher and down makes you lower, which really sucks. It makes you actively stop holding forward while you're swinging forward, and it doesn't make any sense. You can't control the distance of your swing either. I found myself flying over the target over and over again. It really isn't good. It doesn't look that cool either, because the web doesn't connect to anything while he's swinging. It isn't going from building to building, it's just latching onto thin air, but that's just a cosmetic thing. Oh, and you can't get down to and walk on the ground either, which is also pretty lame. And then there's the navigation, which is also explained in the tutorial, and this is complex for no reason. There's this height meter that shows you if the destination is above or below you, and it works, and this compass thing shows you the direction you should head, and this doesn't work very well. You have no sense at all of how close you are to where you're going. I kept swinging past it. A simple and effective solution would be to throw a map where the compass is and just dot the destination. Do something like in GTA, that would work far better. Maybe put an arrow on the outside of the map, just fill in where that big Spidey logo is with a map and it would help so much. Anyways, the majority of the objectives in the game require you to explore some building and beat up a bunch of enemies. As you progress, you collect new combos, which you can revisit in the pause menu.
Oh, and for those of you with short-term memory issues, which would be most of you, you can check out a list of the combos you've unlocked in the pause menu.
These make combat more tolerable, but it still isn't great. Combos don't feel satisfying to pull off. You just press the buttons and hope it works. A lot of the times it won't recognize the pattern, and if it does, it's more relief that it landed rather than the satisfaction of knowing you've done good. You want to know why it's relieving to land a hit? Because if you die in the middle of a level, you have to start it all over. Yeah, you've got to do the whole thing over again, and this is horrible. It makes the game so much less fun. This is really intolerable. Some of the enemy waves in this game are tough, and having to redo earlier sections is so frustrating. Enemies are either super strong close range, or have guns that do way more damage than they have any right to. My health would get low so quick, and I would just run and look for the nearest health thing. I have nothing against the challenge, but this is ridiculous and hard for all the wrong reasons. When you fail, you don't get to just try again right away. The game punishes you for messing up and trying to learn to do better, and it's infuriating. And the enemy taunts are so stupid.
Looks like the freak wants to play. Circus in town?
But Peter sounds just as dumb.
Back off, ugly!
These are like first grade level insults, and they're so bad they're kinda funny. I'll give the game this. The story is pretty okay, but it doesn't totally follow the events of the movie. It kinda picks up after Uncle Ben dies. Oh shoot, sorry, spoiler alert, my bad. And it cuts to the human spider searching for the killer. I really appreciate that Tobey Maguire is the voice in the game too. If he wasn't here, I probably wouldn't have made it past the first level, so that's another plus. They also changed why the Green Goblin is trying to kill Spidey. It's the same setup, he's gonna lose funding in Oscorp and will go out of business if he doesn't make his breakthrough, but the head scientist dude says they could use Spider-Man's blood to complete their serum, so that's a bit different. In this first cutscene though, Norman sounds like such a dumbass.
I can only assume that Spider-Man relates to our problem in some way.
Oh, our research isn't going well. It's because of Spidey.
Yeah, okay. Anyways, it makes enough sense and explains why they're after him, so it works. I just really don't like when movie-based games don't follow the plot of the movie they're based on. I'm all for new ideas in some editions, but don't change the fundamentals of the plot. Then in a later level, all hell breaks loose. Vulture swoops down for some reason, and Shocker's up to no good again, and it's just weird. They weren't in the movie. Why is the game being flooded with other villains? Boss fights against these villains are so unfair. I only played long enough for the first 3 fights. The first one is against Uncle Ben's killer, the second against Shocker, and then the Vulture. The fight against Ben's killer was at the end of a fairly long level, and it was so stressful because I didn't want to die and restart. He's got a gun and it's so annoying because you don't have that many long-range options and you're just as fast as him. Sure, you could shoot a web, but it hardly does anything and will end up getting you shot, so it isn't worth it. Then the fight with Shocker, and there's this horrible section in the beginning where you go down these subway tunnels and avoid shockwaves, and it's so unfair. You have to run from save point to save point, but the time they give you to do so is so slim it's impossible not to get hit, and it's only 3 hits until you die. Then the actual fight's pretty crappy too. He just runs away. If you get too close, he does some tornado thing that sucks you in and does damage, but for the most part, he just gets away from you and sends shockwaves at you. The only way I managed to beat him was by throwing a bunch of different things at him and slowly lowering his health. And right after that fight, you invade Vulture's tower, and it sucks. It's even more narrow than before, and there's so many explosives that send you flying, and it isn't fun. But when you finally get to the top, he just leaves, so you follow. Thankfully, the level ends there, so there's a checkpoint, and then the next level starts with you following him through the air and repairing signs he shoots down. Then that level ends, and the next one is just a fight against him. I'm very glad they split it up like this. If it wasn't, I wouldn't have tolerated it, but the fight's pretty okay though. It's not too tough. You attack him in the air, and when he lands to recharge, you beat him up. It's fine, and dying just restarts the fight, not all the crap before it, and that makes it so much better. But then the next level introduces some dude named Scorpion, and you have to protect him, but there's these flame-throwing electric shooting spiders attacking, and it's so unfair and difficult. If either of you die, you've got to restart, and he's so useless. It's too much. I decided to call quits. So it really isn't worth playing. At the time of release, I'm sure this was an awesome experience, but it's aged very poorly, and nowadays there's far better experiences out there, both in that console generation and beyond. I do plan to take a look at the Spider-Man 2 video game, so look forward to that, but I'm not really sure when I'll get around to it. I've got some great videos coming in the upcoming weeks that you won't want to miss, so be sure to subscribe so you can be there when they're uploaded and help my channel grow. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and let me know down in the comments if you're a fan of this game, and also what your thoughts are on the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. How would you rank them? Also, if you've got any feedback and criticisms, as always, please drop them down below. It helps me out a ton and I really appreciate what you have to say and take it all into consideration. Thank you. Thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.